Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a subscriber requested company. The name is IREN. This is a crypto miner. They're actually based in Sydney, Australia. They've got operations here in Canada and in the United States. I'm really excited to look into this one. Very highly rated in terms of their efficiency and aggressive hash rate growth plans for the back half of this year. Now before we get into all that, please take a second, hit the like button guys. It's a big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. And let me know in the comment section below if you're currently holding shares of IRES, ticker symbol IREN, I-R-E-N, if you like the company and how you think they stack up to some of the other players in the crypto or Bitcoin mining space. Now with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, we're going to be talking about IREN Limited. Ticker on this one is IREN or I-R-E-N on the NASDAQ exchange in the United States. This is as of close on Monday, April 24th. You can see a fairly strong session where they were up about 12 cents or 3% on the day. And in after hours, you can see they added an additional 2 cents to their share price. Now they're sitting just north of $4. You can see this is a one-day chart. If we zoom out to a 6-month, very similar to what we've seen with a lot of the other crypto miners on the channel, we are starting to see some strength and really that reversal off some of the lows we saw a few months ago as we see the price of Bitcoin really start to materialize here. I think this is just the beginning, and a little bit later in the presentation we're actually going to talk about this big press release that came out a couple of days ago in relation to IREN. We've got a lot to get through today. This was again a subscriber request, you guys. I had asked what's your top position in the Bitcoin mining space. IREN or IREN came up consistently in the comments. So I would encourage you guys to continue to reach out. Let me know if there's companies that you're interested in, and I'm more than happy to feature them on the channel. So with that being said, if we jump over to the IREN corporate website, I'll leave a link in the video description below. I wanted to quickly introduce you guys to what this company is all about, their business model, their sites, or their Bitcoin mining operations. Then we're going to talk about some recent news in terms of their hash rate and a big capacity upgrade, and finish the video off by going into their investor presentation and looking under the hood in terms of IREN in a little bit more detail. So if we load up the company website, you can see Bitcoin mining done right and done sustainably. This is a sustainable Bitcoin mining operation based in Sydney, Australia, which is super interesting. I actually spent some time in Australia during my degree. It's a beautiful part of the world. But what's interesting about this organization is although they're based in Australia, the majority of their operations are actually here in Canada, in the province of British Columbia, and in the state of Texas down in the United States. So we're going to get into it a little bit here. If you continue to scroll down, you can see powering progress, protecting the planet. So they're using renewable energy to source or power their computing infrastructure. In turn, that's going to provide their network security to support that Bitcoin mining pool. The deliverable to the company from all of this is obviously their daily Bitcoin bounty and the transaction fees that are paid to IREN. And as we've seen with a number of these miners in current market conditions, they're converting their Bitcoin to cash on a regular basis to fund their operations and their growth. Now further down on this page, you can see they start to talk about their various different sites: Canal Flats, British Columbia, Mackenzie, BC, Prince George, BC, and the one that's currently under construction in Childress County, Texas. We're going to talk about some of this in a little bit more detail, but a diversified portfolio of mining sites both in Canada and the United States, which again gives you that geographical exposure and the diversification in terms of their energy or renewable energy inputs. Now with that being said, I wanted to jump into the investor presentation and give you guys a few key points out of this deck that I found super interesting. This is from December 2022, so some of the numbers are a little bit dated, and that's why we're going to talk about a recent news release or press release next up in the video. But I thought this visual was super interesting, you guys. We've talked about this a number of times on the channel, but not a lot recently. In terms of the collapse we've seen this year from FTX, Celsius, and BlockFi. So you can see in every single bear market we've seen in terms of Bitcoin all the way back to 2010, we've seen a total of 4 bear markets And in each one of these, with the exception of the first, there's been a major crypto exchange or company that's gone into bankruptcy and caused a lot of panic in the market. So the second bear market here, we saw Mt. Gox collapse. That was when Bitcoin prices just surpassed $1,000 US. The third bear market, we saw Coincheck and Quadriga actually collapse. There was a great documentary put out on Netflix about that Quadriga collapse. So I definitely encourage you guys to go take a look. And the fourth bear market, which we find ourselves in right now, is where we've seen the collapse of Celsius, FTX, BlockFi, and Three Arrows Capital. And what's important about this is although it spooked the market, and I've referenced this on the channel before, this was not a fundamental problem with Bitcoin, blockchain, or the underlying technology, but this was greedy, over-leveraged CEOs and executives that put their companies and unfortunately investors at risk. And that's exactly what you can see on the side here. So although we've seen bear markets and mainstream or high-profile collapses, each time we've got through one of these bear markets, we've seen the value proposition of Bitcoin improve or strengthened. None of them have anything to do with Bitcoin itself. And that's really related to the fourth point here, calling out the network itself has never been hacked or compromised. Bitcoin is now seen as a scarce asset because of its 21 million Bitcoin cap. And a great book on this, you guys, The Bitcoin Standard, actually calls out the fact that Bitcoin is perhaps the only finite thing in the entire universe to date. Unlike gold or money that can be printed or mined, there is a hard limit or cap on Bitcoin that cannot be exceeded. As a result, that creates a great digital store of value. And to the fifth point here, we're starting to see the problem with fiat currencies, inflation, monetary policies, and geopolitical risk that's really putting in jeopardy the traditional fiat economy or currency. And that's why I think a lot of people, including institutional investors, which is paramount to the success of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency overall, really starting to take center stage here as a key up and coming market or industry that's really starting to command a lot of attention from the investment community. Now, with all that being said, the second visual that I thought was great out of the Iris Energy deck talks about the total market cap of these various different asset classes. So you can see by far the biggest asset class in the world is global real estate. That's where I spend a lot of my time outside of stock market investing, is actually in a portfolio of rental properties that my wife and I have. You've then got the bond market, which I don't partake in. Physical money or fiat money, which makes up about $40 trillion. The total worldwide reserve of gold is about 12 trillion. Apple, at the time this was put together, was about 2.4 trillion, so the biggest publicly traded company in the world. And Bitcoin, again, at the time this was put together, Bitcoin was trading about $17,000 US back in December of 2022, commanded a market cap in the neighborhood of about $0.3 trillion. So despite all the traction, the articles, the excitement we've seen around Bitcoin and the crypto community over the last few years, this asset really only represents a small fraction of traditional asset classes around the world, giving a huge runway for Bitcoin to continue to appreciate over the next decades and really become a main player in the global economy in terms of trade and securely storing value for people that believe in the technology and invest in this product. Now, as we continue to focus in on Iris specifically, so all of those visuals really pertain to the entire crypto or Bitcoin mining community in general. But again, focusing specifically on Iris, the reason I like this company, extremely efficient, extremely sustainable, and they're really flying under the radar in terms of a lot of investors, I think because of their location in Sydney. But as mentioned in the thumbnail, this was a subscriber request. A number of people who subscribe to the channel, their key or main holding in the Bitcoin mining space is IREN or Iris Energy. So I definitely wanted to get this out and do this company a little bit of justice. So we're going to talk about their various different sites next up here, but some of the big key takeaways, you guys, are the significant real asset platforms that this company has already built. So at the time this deck was put together, they had 180 megawatts that were operating or under construction. They had the potential to expand in Texas up to 580 megawatts. and the rights to additional development sites across North America and in the Asia Pacific region. So like we've heard in recent interviews on the channel, the name of the game right now is expanding hash rate affordably and economically going into the halving event in 2024. So Iris is definitely putting their foot on the gas, and that's what we're going to talk about in the next press release that just came out at the end of April. So this PR was actually published April 20th, talking about Iris providing a 5.5 exahash installation update. And as you can see in the main headline here, they currently have about 4.6 exahash in operation with an additional 0.9 exahash pending install. So between the two, you can see they're going to have 100% renewable energy powering these data centers. It's going to equate to 5.5 exahash per second of overall operating capacity, with the first 20 megawatts at their Childress location coming online in Texas, which is expected to be about 0.6 exahash within the immediate future. So this is a huge development for the team at Iris, as it puts them on the map in terms of a second country of operations outside of Canada. And it really puts their foot on the gas in terms of this aggressive hash rate or capacity expansion. Now from there, if we jump into their second quarter F23 financial presentation results, this is from February of 2023. You can see they specifically talk about this expansion in the deck. So this is now where I wanted to spend some time in today's presentation. Previously, they were at about 2.0 exahash per second. Again, moving up to 5.5 exahash per second as their new operating capacity. And as you can see, the vast majority of this capacity comes in the form of the new S19 J Pro miners, which are extremely energy efficient. In terms of the overall Bitcoin production per exahash, that's something we talked about with our interviews with CleanSpark and TeraWolf last week. And you'll notice the last bullet point here, $38 million of cash on their books and no debt, which is extremely important, especially in the bear market conditions we find ourselves in the Bitcoin community. Now, the next slide talks about the growth at the Childress location, again in Texas, United States here, you guys. So the progress update, they have that initial 20 megawatts nearing completion, which is expected in Q2 of this year. So in Q2, they're going to be energizing their initial 600 megawatt substation and commissioning that 20 megawatt data center. The next step will be expanding their infrastructure, so high voltage and substation infrastructure, proven modular design buildings, and placing orders for the next 20 megawatt building transformers. This is going to support an additional 2.5 exahash at this location. And in total, you guys, they have 600 megawatts of capacity secured, really paving the way for rapid, efficient, and near-term growth on the roadmap at this location. And this is an image from January of this year at the Childress facility, again in Texas in the United States. Now, this is a question I asked in last week's interviews as well, but what does this exahash or capacity really mean to the company? And in terms of Iris Energy, 5.5 exahash means the following. So they've done a sensitivity analysis based on Bitcoin price ranging from $15,000 to $45,000 US. And you can see based on these various different input costs of Bitcoin, their annualized profit ranges anywhere from about $29 million to $225 million in the most bullish scenario. So if you take a middle of the road kind of situation here, you guys, Bitcoin is sitting right now around $27,000 to $30,000 US. You're looking in the neighborhood of about $120 to $140 million in terms of their self-mining profit on an annualized basis once they're able to get up to 5.5 exahash per second. Now, I personally think we could see Bitcoin prices well above $45,000 US into the back half of this year or start of 2024. And that's why, to me, this investment thesis makes a ton of sense, you guys. These companies literally have a license to print money, and they really just need to weather the storm in terms of this bear market cycle we're seeing and make it through to the other side, which again is why the zero debt is such an interesting point for me in terms of Iris Energy. And then they're off to the races. They've got their infrastructure in place. They've got their facilities paid off, and they're now mining and converting Bitcoin on a monthly basis, very similar to what we see in the oil and gas industry. But with all of these additional macro catalysts on the horizon, such as institutional investors, wide-scale global adoption of cryptocurrency, and the big halving event coming in 2024. Now this slide here starts to compare IRES Energy to some of the others in this space. So we've talked about a lot of these on the channel, whether you're looking at Stronghold Digital, TeraWolf, Hive, Cypher, Bitfarms, Hut 8 Mining, CleanSpark, Marathon, or Riot, to name a few. Now I will note this data is as of close on February 10th, but according to the stats at that point in time, IRES Energy had an enterprise value of only $58 million, so a fraction of what you see from a lot of the other competitors in this space. Zero debt on their balance sheet, so really an elite club with the likes of Riot, Cypher, DMG, and Bit Digital, which are some of the smaller players in this space. And the most important metric, in my opinion, you guys, the efficiency, so Bitcoin per exahash. You can see that IRES Energy is actually projecting to be the best in class with 129 Bitcoin being mined for each exahash of capacity they have online. So this really puts them in an elite league. You can see that CleanSpark is definitely up there at 124. I've been rotating money into CleanSpark recently. Hive, another heavy hitter in this space. Bitfarms, another one of my key holdings. And Bit Digital coming in at 123 Bitcoin per exahash. So with all that taken into consideration, the last slide I wanted to leave you with here, you guys, before we take a more detailed look at each one of these sites, talks about the long-term alignment of the founders and the insider ownership at this company. So right now, founders, board, and management own about 23% of IREN or IRES Energy. And you can see that there's a number of institutional investors already involved in the IRES story, with about 23% of their float being held by identified institutional investors, 13% from high net worth individuals, and the remaining 30% of the float is held by either retail or unidentified institutional owners. And that again is why I'm so excited about this space. We've talked to a number of CEOs in the sector, and they're all starting to see their volumes pick up and more institutional activity and interest in their organizations. So to end things off, I wanted to take a quick look at each one of these facilities. Again, the majority of these are based in British Columbia, so I've actually lived out there in Kelowna for about 10 years of my life. Canal Flats is the first location. This is 100% owned land by IRES Energy, 100% renewable energy at this location, 30 megawatts of on-site power capacity. And this is the home of their on-site fabrication facility to support their BC Center build-outs and their Center of Excellence in terms of research and development for IRES. Now the next site is located in Mackenzie, British Columbia. Again, 100% owned land, 100% renewable energy. This one's got 80 megawatts of capacity. It's operational, as we alluded to earlier in the presentation. You can see a world-class facility in terms of their exterior and interior operations. Prince George is their third site in Canada or British Columbia. You can see a before and after of how quickly they were able to build this location out. So September 2021 is shown above, essentially a vacant lot. Versus today, they've got that world-class infrastructure up and operational. This is a 30-year lease at this site with the option to extend by up to 20 additional years, 100% renewable energy, 50 megawatts of overall capacity, again in operation. And last but not least is their Childress County location in Texas, 100% owned land. The power is going to be made up of either excess or underutilized renewable energy. So each one of these 4 locations is powered by renewable energy, which is crucially important. They've got their initial 20 megawatts of capacity that they're working to get online right now, with the expansion opportunity up to 600 megawatts. So a massive facility once it's fully built out. And again, expected to be operational within the quarter in 2023. So definitely a lot of points that have caught my attention here in terms of IRES Energy, an aggressive build out plan, 100% sustainable energy, vertically integrated in terms of their sites, their operations, and their infrastructure, and that super low enterprise value or market cap compared to their peers, especially when you look at some of these critically important efficiency metrics that we've started to talk about more and more on the channel. Now, I'd be super curious to hear your thoughts on IRES Energy. Is this one that you're personally holding? How do you think it stacks up to some of the other players we cover on the channel regularly? If you're still watching at this point, make sure you hit the like button, you guys. It's a huge help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. And with that being said, that's all for now. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.